Hello everyone, and welcome to Modcast, episode 666. You thought our channel was dead, but it's not. It is very much alive, just everyone is currently fighting over its estate. Okay, and joining me today is Kris. Hey Kris, how you doing?
Hey, doing good.
Cool. And joining us for our guest is ex-modder turned game developer. You might have heard of him. We know him as Darren, but you might know him as DDProductions83. Hey Darren, how you doing?
Is it actually episode 666?
Oh, no. Can you imagine if we recorded 600 of these?
Oh, okay.
My God.
Well, I didn't know if you waited for the fucking devil one to get me on. I was gonna be like, good move. Way to go.
Are there even 600 modders out there?
I don't. Well, yeah, but they're not very good ones.
I mean, it's
you have to go through 600 bad interviews.
It's easier to get YouTubers on the show than actual modders. So, if we ask modders for the 100 endorsements, they're like, "Oh no, I don't want the exposure." But if you ask a 1 million subscriber YouTuber, they're like, "Oh yes, I'll come on." So that's yeah.
Yeah, it definitely throws that whole "I do this for me and only for me" thing out the window. They're doing it for some self gratification. I mean, to be fair, but
what do you mean?
you said if somebody with 1 million subscribers ask a modder to be on, they'll jump at that, but they won't do it for a lesser.
Oh no, modders don't want to come on. But YouTubers who are popular YouTubers who we're pretty sure.
YouTubers will come on. Is that what you're saying? Oh, okay.
We're pretty sure they'll just ignore us. They're just like, who the fuck is this? Delete. They just come on. And but modders who are just who we think will just be grateful for attention, just no thanks. So it's been weird in that way.
No, honestly, a lot of them that I met are really what is it, eclectic, eccentric. I don't know. A lot of the modders I've met have been really weird.
Eccentric is a good way of putting it.
My best guess is YouTubers are better. It's their job to basically communicate with other people. Where with modders, it's they became modders to not communicate with other people. So
well, that and you've got to have some level of just pure narcissism or vanity to actually be on YouTube constantly. So you're not going to mind going on something and just promoting yourself as much because it just comes second nature. Not that it's a bad thing. I'm not saying they're narcissists and self whatever obsessed people, but you have to have some level of that, which makes it easier just to jump on and do things with people. So they're a lot more outgoing.
Yeah. All right. So, in terms of we mentioned your game developing now. How's that going, actually? By the way, your game development.
So, out on mobile, if anybody wants to look for Breaking Wheel, the version on Steam is still a complete pile of crap. Got to give me a few more weeks to update that one. It's done. Our first platformer's done. We've already started storyboarding and setting up things for the second game, which we want to do an open world RPG. So, don't look for anything for us for the next year and a half. It's gonna be forever to just get all the framework and stuff going with a small team, but learned a whole crap ton in doing it. We're really happy with the mobile version, but it's only for iOS if people want to search for Breaking Wheel and grab it. It's a
We'll put the links in the description.
Yeah, I'll find them for you, or you can just search for it. I think if you search Breaking Wheel iOS, it pops up, but you have to search for it in the App Store like that if you want to buy it, though. But yeah, we took us way too long, and then took us way too long to port it to mobile because we had to fix everything we did wrong. And like I said, the version on Steam is a pile of crap. Once I'm moving here in a bit, and I'm gonna fix up the Steam version and upload it with a whole new framework that we basically rebuilt the game and retaught ourselves a lot of other crap that we didn't do because we were just gung-ho idiot developers, and it was kind of crap in terms of optimization and coding. It's still kind of crap in terms of coding, but you don't notice because you can't see beneath the hood. So it works.
Why did you tell us a little bit about Breaking Wheel? I mean, what's your idea involving it? How did it sort of come about?
It literally was just, let's make a game. And it kind of spiraled out of control, which is what happens with, if anybody's fucked with any of my mods, you can kind of see that in my, that's one of the things we learned, with the next RPG, we're getting really structured with it. Because the idea was just to learn. And so everybody who was working on it was literally just learn anything you want to learn. And if it's something that doesn't fit with the narrative of the whole platform or that's stupid, we'll put it in bonus levels. So it kind of spiraled out of control. And we had to learn everything. We had to learn how to, level design. We had to learn how to actually code everything. We had to learn how to do entire save systems. We had to learn like all the crap, making everything talk to each other. And we did it horrifically for like the first 5 attempts. And once we started rolling on it, it's kind of a monster in terms of, because like I said, there was no structure. So it was everybody learning and then making everything work, which was, I mean, the plan wasn't to make a blockbuster game. The plan was, once again, to learn. It was the same way I stepped foot into modding with my first crappy ass mod, Descent into Madness. My entire goal was I sat there for a month and a half and just learned how to mod, and I made a quest. It's not my best work. It's still funny as hell. I go back and look at it, I want to blow my brains out. Like, it's it's so bad. Like, but it's also, it's like, if you don't take that step out there, you're never gonna get anywhere. So we had no structure for it. It kind of just evolved from making a joke about Eleonora drinking too much coffee, and then so we made the wheel a little more psychotic the more coffee you drank, and then just went from there. Nothing real special about it. It was, like I said, just learning. I mean, we're still learning. I'm jumping into animation here in the next 2 weeks just to try to make myself a really crappy mocap studio to do the animations for the next game.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, Kris, you're taking your first tentative steps into game dev after years in modding, aren't you?
Well, for me, it's a little bit different because what I do is more like modding. So I need to choose the engine with the biggest asset store. So since I can't do any of the programming, I can't do any of the asset creation, the animations, all of that stuff. I need to just go to the asset store and find things that fit the sort of style I'm looking for and fit the aesthetic that I'm looking for. So in a way, it's a lot like modding in that you're given a select set of assets and you try and incorporate them into your game or whatever kind of quest or whatever that you're trying to build, as opposed to creating these assets on your own.
Yeah, honestly, people like you are what we're gonna love too, because we've got a really kick-ass wave system that HN worked on for like a month and a half when he was bored, and it's gorgeous. Like, it's so gorgeous, it's not going to run unless you have like dual 1080s and a 16-core processor or some shit. But I mean, we're gonna put assets that we make for the next game up for sale for people too. We're just gonna asset pack them as well, because that's a big market. That, I mean, if you're making something for your game, if you want it to be exclusive, it's exclusive. But for an indie game company, I think putting the assets up on a marketplace is really good too, because it gives you some capital and helps other people out.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's probably why I've stuck with Unity. It's just that at the moment, Unreal doesn't have those assets that I need, and without them, I can't really do much of anything.
Well, and Unreal doesn't get any big changes until they make their own damn game and are making millions, so they change it to the engine. I got my own issues with Unreal. I still like it better than Unity. But
yeah, the engine doesn't really matter to me for what I'm doing. It's just the assets have to be there, and so the size of the store matters more than the quality of the engine. You can
actually port a lot of stuff from Unity over pretty decently. There's tools to do it, but no, Unreal I have a personal beef with, because we literally just like rolled up on the mobile version, right? And we had so many problems, and then they released mobile Fortnite, and their next engine update addresses like a gajillion of the problems we had to fix and beat our heads through, and we're just like, fuck you, Unreal. Like, fuck you, Epic. Seriously.
Yeah, that's another thing. If they update the engine and then all the old scripts become incompatible, yeah, that kind of sucks. So.
Oh god, see, that's a nightmare. Once we started with we updated our engine version in the middle of the first PC. That probably caused a lot of our problems. We updated our engine version like 4 or 5 months in, and that was a nightmare. And then when we started the mobile version, I actually, because we had to rebuild the entire engine, or rebuild the entire game, basically is what we were doing, making it more efficient. We actually updated like 2-3 versions later by that point, and then I've just been converting things. Like, nothing worked right. That's why it took like 4 months instead of 1 month to convert to mobile. It was just fixing everything nonstop. But yeah, once you start with an engine version, you're kind of stuck with it, because updating is just cancer. I mean, I assume it's kind of the same way for Unity, though.
Yeah, Unity does have sort of a script updating system where they will notify you if there's lines of code that are outdated, and they suggest, like, okay, you should write it this way instead of before, because this particular syntax is no longer in use. So it is pretty good about that, actually. But there are still instances where an old asset, if the author didn't update it to be compatible, it might run into problems.
Oh yeah, that's the same way with Unreal. If somebody doesn't update their actual assets, it's like. But I mean, to be fair, we only used animation assets and then the a lot of the Infinity Blade assets, which were just meshes, so we didn't have that issue when we updated. It was our own code that got fucked up in the update because it was bad. So that's always fun.
Why did you ever leave modding for this?
Oh god, because modding is
question.
way more atrocious. I mean, most people listening, if they've heard of me in any way, the one thing they're gonna know is that I hated the fucking users, and it was more of a reason due to entitlement. Like people are like, oh, I just hate people in general, but I also hate like entitled little cunts who are, getting shit for free and they can't be fucked to just read a 1-paragraph description of something. Like, if you're gonna buy the game from me and then be an entitled retard, I'm more okay with that because you gave me your money. So I'll be more inclined to actually put out, information on something for somebody who's too stupid to read the description if they're buying something from me. Then and it's also a matter of it's the core of, like, it's one of the things that gets me about modders in general is that they just want to create something, right? Most modders, when you ask them, they want to create something. They have it's that artistic personality, which I hate to admit that I have because I generally hate the hippie artistic types. But I have it. It's that thing where I just need to create. I need to make something. I need to just, I design my own furniture and make it like that. Like that kind of crap. It's where I need to create. And the problem I always had with modding is I am creating, but I'm also repurposing, which I didn't find as fulfilling. So being able to go out and actually create something new from scratch, like even if I'm buying the assets for it, is still more fulfilling to me. I mean, yeah, I might not get as many buys for it because I'm actually selling something. It might not be the greatest thing, but it feels better than if I'm just painting the Mona Lisa and, recreating the Mona Lisa over and over again every day and making small changes, or if I'm painting my own shit. That's kind of the difference of how it felt to me personally.
You could always have been if you just stayed, you could have been selected for Creation Club, so you might have had more of an authorship there. So I mean, what's been your thoughts on that whole thing? I mean, you left before it hit us like a brick. So I was just wondering if you had any thoughts about it, because I don't think you.
As far as I know about Creation Club, yeah. It's a lump sum payment, right?
We don't know.
That's what I've understood from people that I've talked to. I got a few friends who are in it. I could ask them a little more personally, but that's what I've understood about it, which means they're getting ripped off far more than they would have with the paid modding as a percentage. So I mean, that's stupid. It's unbelievably stupid, and I swear to God that like I said, I hate people. I think the vast majority of people are suckers. I think people with the artistic, personality, they don't understand. That's actually something that pans out really hard that we saw in the mod author forum. It's a private forum for mod authors. That a lot of mod authors do not understand basic economics. They don't understand basic supply and demand and how markets work. Like, to a point where most 5th graders would have a higher level of understanding than what I witnessed. Because they don't get that the fact that Bethesda has sold, 10 million copies of the game. They buy your mod for $400 or $500, and you're like, yeah, I got $400 or $500, and Bethesda rakes in $50,000. Like, that's not. There's not any comparison on that one, and everybody will give them, sure, it's their game, it's their IP, it's their but all they do is they have a bunch of interns working at $8 an hour that are buying up your mods and checking them and then putting them back on there, and they make, it's just like Blizzard when they make a new pet. There's one dude who worked 15 hours on the pet, and they rake in $1.7 million. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. You got to understand that your time is more valuable than some of that, and the fact that it's a piece of work that you make that can then be constantly reprinted and sold ups the value. It's like painting something and then they do a print of it. If they keep selling the prints over and over and over again, the original painting is worth a lot more than the prints. But the prints rake in, 5,000 times what the painting does overall, which means that the original art piece is worth more money. You don't undersell your original work based on the time you put into it. You sell it based on the, what the market decides it's worth. And they don't understand that. They're just doing a straight conversion to my time, and here it goes. So it's up to them if they want to do it. I mean, Bethesda is all the happier for it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's like the whole thing now. It's like community type software. Like they're sort of the line between modding and gaming is kind of blurring. So I think Minecraft have a store, a community store, and I'm pretty sure Blizzard has one as effectively as well, like for StarCraft and things like that. So it's kind of that's the kind of
do
thing,
they actually sell shit on StarCraft? I don't even know.
Yeah, they're now selling like StarCraft like fan campaigns and things like that, fan games and things. So like Minecraft as well. So it's ironic the kind of hate Creation Club gets when it's like that's what the world's becoming, kind of.
Well, it's because consumers are stupid. I mean, look at loot boxes.
Yeah.
When you have to have the government stepping in to intervene, and I mean they're doing it in some European countries. Was it Belgium did it, declared them illegal?
Mm-hmm.
China's made them declare the actual percent chances. Like there's because people are so stupid, they just their kids are spending hundreds and hundreds. I mean, V-Bucks is now the next big trend there with Fortnite. Fortnite's a free-to-play game in terms of their battle royale, and they rake in $7 million a week.
Wow.
That right there tells you all you need to know about the consumer.
Yeah.
The average consumer is a fucking retard.
Well, I think Fallout Shelter might be actually like they don't say it, but I think it might be sneakily very successful. Like probably more successful than Fallout 4, despite the fact of it being free, because people just keep buying those lunch boxes. So that's why they keep updating it.
I mean, one of the things we did 2 indie festival things like back to back, and I only went to one of them. I went to the one in Taiwan, which by the way, just oh god, don't. I'm never leaving the U.S. Anyway, we had little trash bins for our toilet paper because you couldn't flush them. That's just yeah. The food was great, but you didn't want to eat anything. No, but the biggest thing, like we were approached by so many people for different ways to market it by, spamming ads everywhere. The most common was obviously the free to play, pay to win type thing where I'm like, our freaking game just requires you running around shooting things and grabbing coins and coffee and you unlock skins. Well, what if you had, 500 skins and then they could pay to unlock them? I'm like, oh my, I just wanted to shoot myself. Like the pay to win mentality, or just even the pay to play, like, get people a taste of it. It's like they're making all gamers addicts, and it's like, come and play the game, get a good taste of how fun it is, and now it's a fucking atrocious nightmare. Like, unless you give us money. And so the trick is to get you invested in something, and then, I mean, it's no different than an abusive relationship, right? Think about it. You start a relationship, and, the first 2 months, it's great, it's grand. Then you move in together, and then he starts beating the shit out of you, or she starts poisoning your food. But now you're invested in the relationship, and you're stuck with it. I mean, it's, it's insidious because it's not like EA did us all a favor by just, dropping the loot boxes being atrocious at the start. Usually, they slow poison you, so you're invested in it. So it's, I don't know.
The thing is, most of EA's profits come from like FIFA 18, like literally like overnight they've gone from like selling like sports games, which is like most of their income, but now it's like literally most of their income comes from these like effectively loot boxes and like FIFA games and things like that. So, I mean, they just like I don't know where I just tuned out and this became the world in video games.
That's exactly how I feel. Like I was talking with somebody about it, and I'm like, I have more fun designing, my crappy game than I do playing most games. It's because, I mean, the moment they stick some sort of a pay mechanic in it, it just starts annoying the living piss out of me. And I get it in a free-to-play game, but the fact that they're doing it on premium games it's a nightmare. Like, come, pay $60 for our game, now pay us more for loot chests in it. Like, fuck you, Blizzard, for making this really popular, but I blame them with their over-sensationalized loot boxes in Overwatch, I swear to Christ. But everybody's been doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel kind of bad that I'm like left out of it. Like, I want to be involved in being exploited. I feel left out. But I mean, what? So like with you've like developed, you're sort of well into game development now. That's your kind of abusive relationship, and you're kind of invested in you've forgotten the past. But do you have any like thoughts on the modding past? Because I mean, obviously modding's kind of Fallout 4 is kind of dying down, and Skyrim's kind of dying down right now. But what was your thoughts on that whole 2016 period of Fallout 4 and all the controversies and all these YouTube news shows that you were on every week, if you happen to like remember that,
Yeah, a little bit. I think it was over sensationalized a bit, and I think that I kind of go back and look at some of the modding crap here and there, and I don't know. I think the people who are in any way ambitious will tend to move out of modding within a relatively short amount of years. The only reason I stuck with it longer than I intended, my intention was always at the start, like, I want to make my own game. And the only reason I stuck with it, it was just, real life circumstances. I couldn't step out and just start making a game. So I just kept modding and modding and modding. And I don't know. I see it as like I think my biggest problem with the whole modding scene in general was just that it wasn't content as much as it was modification is the wrong word, but it is the right word. It was just modifications. Like, here's some visual graphics, here's some clothing, here's some things. It wasn't. It would be like, to me, the idea of changing all the visual aspects in my game repeatedly would be like watching a YouTube video 15 different times, and it's the same YouTube video. They're just dressed differently, or they're in a different place and they're saying the same things. Like, I never really liked the fact that 99% of modding was just that kind of crap, which, I mean, it's easy stuff to do, but I like content, and I like being able to do things. And there was very few mods that actually added stuff like that. Gameplay mechanic changes were a big one. That does add a difference in play, but the majority of modding was just kind of boring crap, which I think didn't really endear me to most other modders either, because I'm pretty brutal about that shit. But I didn't know, like, is it actually dying down? I haven't really kept track of
kind of having its Fallout New Vegas period where it's just like there's like 10 new mods a day, and there's just less people are less invested, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, because people are going to be less hyped about it, and I get that it starts to fall off. The fact that they've re-released Skyrim on everything but a TI-86 calculator is telling you how much they're milking that dead cow, and that they didn't respect Fallout or its numbers.
Yeah.
So that I don't know. Like, it almost guarantees that the next game they put out is going to be like an Elder Scrolls one, because clearly their Fallout franchise isn't making them as much money, and people are way more invested in the Elder Scrolls series. I mean, to be fair, I am too. I like the fantasy more than the sci-fi. I like sci-fi games more. I do not like the Fallout series in terms of story more.
Aren't they doing a new IP though?
Oh God, I hope so, because that might be a death blow. It might actually really hurt them.
I actually think it's a good thing, because especially for their writers, because I think there's going to be some fatigue from constantly being in this sort of revolving door between the fantasy worlds of Elder Scrolls and the post-apocalyptic, I don't know what you want to call it, sci-fi, dystopian.
Yeah, it's sci-fi, fantasy, post-apocalyptic. Yeah.
So you're kind of stuck between these two worlds, and the ability to kind of go somewhere else with it, like Starfield is like straight up sci-fi, so it's just the sheer novelty of doing something new might be refreshing, and just sort of get those creative juices flowing again.
But see, you're gonna hit the same problem that you hit in Fallout, because I would be willing to bet everything that I have that whether if so when it comes from like id or something else, it's gonna. But if it's coming from Bethesda itself, it's literally just going to be Morrowind 6.0. You get what I'm saying? Like, the mechanics are all the same. The engine will probably be the same. Like, if they're still using the Gamebryo engine, it's going to be the same damn game. That thing is set up for Morrowind and only Morrowind. Like, it's going to be the same fucking game. The fact that you can't even like change gravity is just a nightmare, and like you can't even change the axis on which your force is going down in the whole engine. Like, it's so dumb. I think that's where they're failing at it, because if you keep making, like, Morrowind was fucking amazing. For the time it came out, Morrowind was just phenomenal. It was groundbreaking. Oblivion was decent. Fallout New Vegas and shit was great. Fallout 3. But it started to grow old because you kept playing the same fucking game. And that's where they're at now. You're still playing the same fucking game. And I don't think they know how to make another game.
Well, I think it's kind of different, because I just watched this video on Fallout 3 the other day, and like I generally, up until like now, like I thought Fallout New Vegas was like the better game, but like apparently, like, I didn't realize Fallout 3 was this work of genius. Like, the gameplay was just so innovative, and that kind of feel that you felt when playing it wasn't like an accident. Like, I always thought, the feel I play when I play this game, I think it was just an accident, because Fallout 4 is just not as great, as it were. But like Fallout 3 is like purposely like designed to like be an entertaining, immersive experience. But like Fallout 4 doesn't have that, and that's what I mean. Bringing back what we're talking about, all these like the industry's moved to like microtransactions and loot boxes. Like, does no one actually realize the gameplay is getting worse?
Yeah, it's getting worse, and they're just rehashing the same things you've always done. So
Well, that's what I mean when they say like, oh, you're talking about the gravity. I think it's the gameplay is probably just getting a little bit.
Well, no, what I'm saying is in terms of the engine, they haven't modified the engine that much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's only set up to do one thing. So it's set up to do that open world, bull crap with the, it can do other things, but the way they have it set up and the way they keep modifying it, they're basically stuck in a loop doing the same game. And they've been doing it since, 2002?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got people who have been working with only that engine for 16 years. That's what I'm saying. I don't think they can do another game. They can't switch the paradigm enough to make something innovative. And that's where I think they're going to start losing people. Because, we've got an ADHD generation. Just look at the people who play mobile games, too. They're playing, 50 different mobile games. They're doing stuff that just constantly flashes in their face because their attention span isn't stuck on something. And it's really hard to get that kind of... And they like that because they get the money from it. People will get super invested for 40 minutes and blow $20 on something. And, they could have bought the game for $2, a different game, and played it for free. Instead, they're playing a free game and dropping $20 to $40 on it. And they're only playing it for maybe an hour to 2 hours, and then they're done because they've gotten all their enjoyment out of it. That makes more money than actually making something that holds somebody's attention and you can play it for 20, 30 hours. So that's where I'm scared where the business is going. I don't think Bethesda is going to make a game like that. I actually don't. I think they're going to stick with their same old tried and true method that makes them, $100, $200 million in profit every couple of years. It's not a terrible thing, but it's not pushing game advancement anywhere.
I don't even know if it's their responsibility to innovate, though.
But any company that doesn't innovate eventually dies.
Yeah, but what if they iterate? Yeah. They iterate on nothing.
Yeah, but they don't have to innovate themselves in order to apply new innovations from other games. Like in Fallout 4, you have innovation borrowed from BioWare in terms of just having more in-depth companions and stuff. So I'm less worried about that as I am on how well they tell the next story, which going to a new universe should help with.
Well, but imagine, I was going to say, imagine if you're getting a new story and a new scenario, but all your gameplay mechanics are the same as Skyrim, but you're just in space. Like that's the problem that I see them having But
I'd argue that's a problem across all games, and that so many games are just carbon copies of each other in terms of mechanics, especially with the FPS. My issue with Fallout 4 has less to do with the gameplay, which I found to be fine. It's just the quest structure and sort of the repetitive nature of Radiant quests.
Oh, you're right. The storing and the way to do it was really boring. You're correct.
Yeah, and my main problem is just with any kind of just automated quest design. And so it's not exclusive to Fallout 4. We shouldn't pick on that game alone. Like Far Cry 5 suffers from this as well, in that there's just a lack of sort of handcraftedness to the quest design or how you do quests. And you start to notice these things. Like you start to notice that there's a system or repetitiveness in place. And that, to me, isn't a problem with the gameplay or the technical aspects of the engine. It's just a lack of just diligence and care, I should say, because I know that these designers are capable of making these brilliant handcrafted quests. It's just relying too much on a automated system, and I think that's the bigger problem. And hopefully just being in a new world and being in a new environment and universe will help sort of get those creative juices flowing to where they want to make handcrafted quests as opposed to the Radiant ones that we often see in some of the recent games.
Yeah, the actual quest design, they just dropped the ball there. Apparently in that Fallout 3 thing I was telling you about, I had no idea that, the Antagonizer and Mechanist quest, apparently if you explore enough in the Capital Wasteland, you can resolve that quest in a completely different way that I've never heard of.
It's kind of what we were looking into. So I like one of the programs I got for storyboarding has been really, really fun because one of the things we were looking at was I like what you're saying. I hate the idea that there's one or two ways to complete a quest.
Yeah.
Like, and I love the idea that you can fail at the quest. Like, so one of the things that I hate in games, like if you have a quest progression chain and you fail at one of them, you've lost the entire quest line, right?
Right.
Well, like one of the things I was looking at is, well, why not be able to fail it and keep going along with the quest line? Just a lesser, end reward or different outlooks on what happens, or it changes the way that the quest proceeds. And that's one of the things that I've really been looking at. It's like, yeah, it's not more difficult. It's just more time consuming. You just have to add more and more steps of how you do something, but it adds a whole lot of replayability. It adds a lot of fun to it. And kind of one of the things that I didn't like about Skyrim onwards was the lack of individual, faction, like individual response to your character.
Mm-hmm.
Most people were based on just their faction, and boom, that's it. And I like the idea that a faction could hate you, but you've done enough stuff for some guy that he actually likes you and will keep helping you, even though the faction wants to kill you or some shit. Like adding, like you said, the story and the way you do things is a big thing about it. And I get we're limited on what you can do because it's technology. What else are you gonna do? What do you do in a game that's about hacking and slashing or shooting people? You're right. You're kind of stuck in stuff that's been tried since the mid-90s onward. Mm-hmm. So it's more just a way of telling the story and what the story is. I get that. But if you keep telling the story in the exact same way, like I think one of the biggest problems with a lot of the game, like you're saying with Fallout, everything is go here, kill this, go here, kill this, go here, kill this. Whereas in Fallout 3, there was different ways to complete different objectives throughout the game, so it made the gameplay feel more dynamic. You didn't feel like you were just repeating the same process for every possible quest. So that's one of the big ones that I think making with Fallout 4, what they did was it was easier for them to do that because then they could just overload the amount of quests on you. So it felt like you were doing so much stuff when in reality you were just literally doing the same thing 70 different times. So it takes a little bit more time to personalize each quest and make them kind of individual, which was, once again, one of the things that I did when I was fucking around with Discworld, was each quest, there was like different ways to complete it. Some were search missions, some were, help people through this, some were find things. It was like, it wasn't just go and kill everything repeatedly. It was kind of like make each quest a little bit different so it didn't feel like you were just constantly doing the same thing as you ran through the game. And especially if your story is linear. But open world, you can have a lot of kill quests as long as you 20%, 30%, make them a little more personalized, then people won't bitch as much about it.
Also, in open world, you can have lots of random encounters, which is one thing I missed in Fallout 4. And Skyrim, I think, as well.
I'm kind of not a fan of random encounters. This is a weird one for me. Uh-huh. Because of how tightly knit that is, it's like, generally, random encounters just turn to violence. Right? If that makes sense. Like, there's some where it's like, because scripted encounters are a whole other story where it's like you've done something to a faction and this is going to happen. And it's going to be a storyline. Random encounters can usually only meddle down unless you want to spend, have a team of 10 people working for a whole bloody year just to make random encounters not feel generic. They're just going to turn to violence.
Because that's kind of the one thing I actually quite like, because I like the fact that, in Fallout 3, for example, like, you could have a random encounter clear out the enemy base for you, and that could only be in one playthrough, and you'll never ever see it again. It kind of made sort of infinite, possibilities and infinite combinations, as it were, because you can just combine shit. Where you just don't do that anymore because they made the experience more controlled, which means you only have one experience over many playthroughs, if you know what I mean. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I probably missed that. But in terms of the future, are you still a game player yourself? Besides all that,
Yeah, I'm playing crap. I'm actually getting Far Cry this weekend and playing it with a friend since you can co-op it. So I'm gonna see how that goes. Mm-hmm. The fact that you can have a bear companion with guns or some shit, I'm in for that. Apparently it's just like every other Far Cry game, so I'm not gonna get invested in the story probably at all. But the gameplay could be fun with some friends. And I've been playing Ark a bit recently just because it's kind of fun to run around with dinosaurs. But as far as newer games, not I'm waiting for the couple obvious ones like Cyberpunk. I've been liking the Tomb Raider series. I generally sit more on single player games for the most part, because I'm too fucking old to when I play Overwatch I just play Symmetra and laser noodle people. Like that's our Torb and just hit my turret repeatedly, so I don't have to do anything. I can't PUBG. I just run people over with the biggest weapons, the vehicles, because I can't aim. I have no Twitch reactions. I'm like, but yeah, I still enjoy playing games. It's just settled down a lot. I mean, I'm getting older. I guess it's just, and like you said, I get a lot of cynicism when I look at it. Like when I played through the last Deus Ex game. Like I remember playing the original way back in the day, like, and so I've still got, and I liked it. I actually enjoyed the latest Deus Ex game. I think it was too short, but I'm lucky that I never noticed the damn microtransactions on the main page. I literally just hit the play button and went, because if I had seen them, it would have soured my whole fucking experience for the game.
Yeah. Because
it did after the fact. Like when I realized it was there, I went, what the fuck? Like you can pay to level up in a single player game? Like I lost my shit on it. Like I was like, I can't believe this is actually a fucking thing.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean that's my problem. Is like I'm getting too old. I feel like I'm getting too old and cynical, and I just hate the world.
Like what we were talking about before. I mean, I just had this thought where like I would hate to be like. Generally, the traditional thought is that you wish to be young again, but I would hate to be 12 now and playing video games.
You're setting yourself up for a life of being broke if you just want to like play with your friends.
Yeah, exactly. So you're like sitting in class and everyone's playing like they're paid to play or playing Fortnite on their mobile, and you're just thinking this is hell. It's like completely different from my time when people were playing like Morrowind in school and things like that, and like playing Half-Life 2 and stuff like that. But now they're just like you're just surrounded by all these shitty mobile games that just be like, and you'd be begging your parents for all this money to pay for this crap, and it would just be like gaming would be the worst thing ever. Almost.
Well, one of the funniest things that I was realizing was when we released Breaking Wheel on the PC version, we got a lot of bitches and complaints that it was too damn hard. Now, bear in mind that we included in the game, you literally can just pause the menu and change it to kid mode, where you will not actually die when you reach 0-0 on your coins and your coffee, right? And so these are people bitching it's too hard, and all of us are going, we made this shit easier than Mario. We literally have Super Mario clone levels in there where we just duplicate. We actually like pull up the level design and built a level around the Mario things. We even got the little boxes you hit with the coin. They're gonna sue us now, but you actually like you can turn it to hardcore mode. Then you're literally playing Mario for the most part. You get hit, you die, and it was just one of the things that we were just flabbergasted by. And we realized that everybody is just in this gen. They want that gratification so much. But they don't want to. There's no consequence. Like I mean,
you probably should have called it adult mode. Then more people would have probably been inclined to play it.
Don't worry, my see, this is where I get overruled by the people working with me. Is just like when I want to put pansy ass bitch mode. Like I just don't even want to like. But I mean, think about it. We got games like Skyrim and Fallout where they autosave for you, or you can save 60,000 times, so there's no repercussions for your decisions, which. At the initial onset of when they started to do it, people were like, oh, that's great, then I can try different things out. Well, now it means the same thing that real life means, was there's, nobody wants to take responsibility for their decisions inside of a game. It's one of the things I was looking at with the, which is actually a little bit harder to do in Unreal than it should be, is a consistently saving world. I didn't want to give people the chance to save and rechange their decisions. If they died, it would jump them back 5 minutes or something, maybe. Or if they died, I'd do like sort of a Dark Souls style respawn on them. It's one of the things we're looking at, since in the RPG we're planning to have you play an undead character anyway. So it would kind of fit in, right? But I wanted to make it so that, if you failed a quest, you couldn't just reload and start and do the quest again. Because I think it's so chintzy. Like, it's like... make it so you can't fail the main quest if there's a main story quest, But do you guys play Morrowind? Did you guys ever play Morrowind?
Ages ago, yeah.
Okay, one of the funniest fucking things that made me love that goddamn game was I went into that one city with all the big pyramid buildings or whatever, and I fucking killed some dude. I was just sneaking around stealing shit from people and killing them, right? I was just being a little dick. And I fucking killed some guy, and when I killed him, the game popped up and said, "You've doomed the world. You cannot complete the main quest. All of existence will be destroyed. Do you want to reload?" And I'm sitting here going, well, that was fucking awesome. Like the fact that, then you get to Oblivion, and you just knock out the motherfuckers who are quest-specific, and you can never kill them anymore. Like, that kind of made me... I just went, what? And then, Skyrim dumbed it down even more. It's like their actual attitude towards you will reset after they've been knocked out. Like, I'm sorry, but if some dude beat the shit out of me unconscious, then I woke up, I'm not gonna be like, hey there, stranger, and just walk away.
Yeah, I'll probably save on bug testing time too.
Well, it's that, and it's they don't want to give people that feeling of failure.
It's also more appealing to the mass audience. Like,
but what you saw with Dark Souls is you can turn failure into a mechanic of the game itself and make the rewards, better. If you have to, it brings you back to the working on the game and my own type of abusive relationship. You get more out of something if something is harder for you to do and something takes more of your effort and your will and determination. And, still while being fun, it means more to you than if something took 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. How much sense of accomplishment do you get taking out the trash? It's something that needs to be done, but I mean, it's like if it's something hard for you to do that takes your effort, and then it's something you really want to get done and you really want to make happen. It's why people are so venomously defensive of Dark Souls.
Yeah,
fine. I hated Dark Souls personally.
Yeah,
it's a fucking great game. I mean, in terms of everything about it, I love how they designed the game. I love the game's aesthetics. I love the game's mechanics in terms of just how they did it. I fucking hate the game.
No, I played the game
for
lore, and that's why I read the wiki and just hate the game, or watch the playthrough.
But try to even tell that to somebody who loves the game and beat the entire game. They'll try to put a sword to your throat. Because it was something that they had to work at and something they had to push through and fight for. And when they got it, the sense of accomplishment felt so good that they're more invested in the game.
Yeah, but the reason I called it adult mode is because as an adult, you don't really have time to kind of invest into these games and learn these skills to get good enough.
That's true.
So I do understand the gratification of it and how you're working towards something, and it's incredibly satisfying in that regard. I mean, Ninja Gaiden was that game for me, so I totally get it. But at the same time, as an adult, your time is sort of limited. And
see, but I think, like I said, there's a happy medium to that, though. Because, like I was saying, if I do a persistent world that has the ability to punish you for screwing up, but it doesn't take away. You screw up something, and then, it doesn't stop you from completing the game. It might stop you from a side quest. It might stop you from, and even then, if you allow a way around it, there's a chain of quests, you fail one, well, maybe you just don't get as big a reward at the end of the thing. It changes the next quest that they give you. So instead of giving you a harder quest, they give you one of equal value again to see if you can actually complete it. I think that would play into it too, because I don't know. It feels more like learning something is also very fun, but as long as, like you said, doesn't Dark Souls. The reason I didn't like it was the whole learning the entire thing of the fight and checking boss movements and shit. Mm-hmm. I think that you can still get a lot out of a game by failing at stuff and then replaying it if you want to, or even not replaying it, but you still get the story.
Yeah, I think that's primarily why. Sorry, Chris. I mean, that's primarily why this big character-based shooter thing is successful. Like Overwatch, and character shooter, these heroes that you go around a map shooting people, like Overwatch and stuff like that. I think that's why Quake Champions kind of died, because they tried to do the Overwatch thing, but they decided to make it Quake as well. So people are just like, what is this shit game? I don't understand it. But it's a game that requires you to learn it like hell. So there's people who, the 5 people that actually play Quake Champions think it's the best game ever made. But everyone else just hates it completely because it's not an easily accessible game, as it were. So
it's one of my bitches about Fortnite. I uninstalled I'm not going to install it again. It just irritates me because I'm not twitchy. Mm-hmm. I can play, I can aim, I can do strat. I don't do bad in PUBG. In PUBG, I've ranked in the top 0.1% every season that I played it. Mm-hmm. I'm not bad at the game. I'm just not twitchy enough. It's a little more hide and seek for me. It's a little more strategy. Pop off people when you got a clear shot. Bait other people to shoot them. I use the what's available. But in Fortnite, I get to the top 3 all the fucking time. Mm-hmm. I never make number 1. Why? Because I can't build a goddamn tower from hell in 4 seconds. It is so just it's literally you get there and you're going to be facing the same 40 people over and over again that are getting into that top 1, because Like, I lined up a sniper shot some dude in the head, and when I was taking the second shot, he had 8 building pieces down. Like, I'm like, what is this shit? Like, what? I can't, what the fuck? And I get that I'm not good at it, but also that top like 0.1% that just plays at that Twitch level where they've just, they've got all the movements down where they have a fort up in, 8 seconds, and they just keep building it and repairing it and modifying the inside so you're in a maze, and it's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's like a fucking superhero film.
Dude, it is so obnoxious.
Yeah,
I can't take it because it just aggravates me, because it's not the, like, I mean, in PUBG, I'll get wins all the time. In Fortnite, I never get wins. Like, I can't beat that person who's made it there. I think I've gotten 1 win in Fortnite, and that's because the guy who got to the last probably got lucky. Like, and he was just as bad as I was, because we were both trying to shoot each other with shotguns and building erratically like morons. So, I just hate that mechanic in that game.
Yeah. Well, probably the product brings us to the final thing. In terms of like, here I got where like, modding is almost like a safe space, as it were. But the game industry can be a dick. So have you ever thought about that? Like, in the sense that the game industry...
Robin, stop making modding a safe space, you fucking pussy. If you even listen to this... No, I like Robin. I think he's done a good job. It's just... You're right. It's made it the worst part is, though, it's a safe space for the users and the modders. So you got the retards, and it's like the retards and retards try to work together, and everything ends up retarded. Honestly, I think the marketplace beating your head into... Like, I mean, we didn't expect to sell very many copies of the game. We didn't expect to sell so few, which honestly wasn't it's more of a judgment call on our marketing. We didn't have any marketing plan. None. Like, so, and we're seeing that in action, which is, it's a good wake-up call, because it's like, holy shit, we're going to actually have to start looking at marketing from inception to the end. And I think that the free market's going to teach you a lot faster and a lot more brutal. Modding is just you doing whatever the hell you want whenever you want, whereas in the free market and making a game, we've got to, like, the first one was a throwaway, but the second one, we have to make a game that's going to appeal to people. We have to make a game that people want to play and have fun with, which means we're going to have to constantly be testing things with people and testing the waters and getting out there and actually doing outreach. Whereas the first one was just us learning how to do shit. Now we know how to do shit. We got to make sure that shit's fun. Excuse me. And I don't know. I think there's a place for both, but if you really want to be, like, your creativity can get clamped. And it kind of should. I mean, if you just want to go out and finger paint shit all day, nobody's going to buy it. But if that's your creativity and you're like, and I'm just smashing my face into the thing with red paint here, and here's a handprint because I have fun creating, well, nobody wants to buy your shit. So if you want to be successful, you have to have some levels of clamping down. But you also have the fact that innovation can be really well rewarded in the gaming industry. So if you come up with something that you really enjoy, that's fun, that's innovative, that's new, that's that's something really cool, the gaming industry will reward the living hell out of you.
Well, I kind of read this thing like the other day, because part of my argument, the second part of that is game industry can be a dick, is some not necessarily indie, but like when you actually get to the sort of corporate part, they're just dicks because, like, quote unquote, that's good business, as it were. Like people will actively try and screw you as much as possible to, like, get a piece of you, as opposed to, like, protecting you and looking out for you, for example. So I mean, like, have you ever thought about that, where people will just, like, you'll meet these dicks in the industry, who are just vindictive?
Are you talking about, like, people that would work with you, or just other people in the industry?
I'm primarily basing it on this thing that I read the other week. You know the company Obsidian?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently they're the worst company in the world, and I had no idea.
Well, think about it this way. It's my company. I own it. There's not very many people who survive a month with me that are going to be of that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a personality, like filter. I polarize the living fuck out of people. Yeah. And I've been doing that since I was like 12. Like, it's you hate me and you want to kill me, or you like me. There's not a whole lot that fall in the middle. And some of them fluctuate between those two ends at varying times.
Yeah.
But and I mean I polarize a lot of the people that end up hating me because I don't know. I just have that no shit attitude. Like I don't take the shit. I give a lot of shit. Like you can give shit to me, but I'm not gonna take your personal bull crap. And so people with a lot of personal problems don't tend to last very long around me because I will point out their bullshit, and I have no issues doing so because I don't know. I'd say I'm not a nice person, but I don't think being a nice person means letting somebody get away with self-delusion all the time. I think you're a more horrible person than I am. So that's my personal view on it. And I mean, we weeded out a bunch of people who were just twats and shit right off the start, just based on the fact that I'm a prick. So I honestly don't see that being. I mean, my biggest fear is becoming, a company of 150 people and having all that corporate bullshit all over our heads. I think that there's a mitigating factor to where you do. Creative people start companies, and the more logical people who are robots maintain them and make them bigger. And I have aspects of both, but my creative side is definitely higher on that spectrum. So having somebody to mitigate that, working alongside, will definitely be something you have to look at, because you can't just be pure creative and fun all the time. I read something recently about how even CD Projekt Red was a crap company to work for.
Yeah.
And that they've gotten better, but I mean, it's
like a
it's
different
just interesting.
To be fair, it's like a
Yeah,
different
and you have to be locked down. You have, like I said, with the next game, we're really locking down what we're doing. Like the creative aspect is in the initial design, and one of the things we got really carried away with was the feature creep problem that a lot of people have, and nitpicking perfectionism. Which is something that I actually threw out the window for the mobile version when we got it out there. There is some problems in the mobile version. Doesn't make it unplayable, but when we see it, we literally go on, a 6-hour tirade trying to fix this one little bug that 1% of the people are going to see and probably not even realize that it's a bug. And that's something we did horrifically in the PC version. And it's something we have to throw out the window and actually, and the same thing with feature creep. We're going to set up a guideline and stick with it. And that does hinder creativity a lot on the far end of it, which is, I really rail against, because I really like creativity and innovation. But if you want to get something finished and you want to get it done on a timetable and under budget, and make something fun and playable, you got to kind of clamp down on your more creative sides.
Well, that's kind of I've been like reading about all these things and stuff like that. Like when you're reading about Obsidian, for example, apparently the owner of the company is like a real dick who suppress any creativity when actually torture his staff. Like would say, "Oh, pitch something to me the other day," and then would never consider like doing the pitch at all or things like that. And like he had Chris Avellone working for him. Like he used to work with him at Interplay. He's the guy who did Planescape Torment, and all these things like that. And apparently he told him before when he started Obsidian that he looked out for him at Interplay and always defended him, and then told him 5 years later and like didn't give a shit that he lied and basically tried to actually get him fired and brought him in as a company as a liar. So I'm like, this guy is like a major dick. So that's like one way like to be a complete tyrant at one company.
How is it always like you hear these stories about the people who are like, they get so much money and they have successful game companies or companies, and you just find out they're just an absolute fucking asshole of a prick. Like, how does this always happen?
This guy's like the most vindictive. Like, the Telltale guy is one thing, who's like the guy who got pissed off because all his writers started getting popular, and he was like this nice guy on TV, but apparently he was this dick. But like this Obsidian guy, he's just like this he would just gladly torture people for fun. Like, it sounds like. Just like
see, I get there, dreams. People think I like hate them or I just don't consider their ideas and stuff, and I'm like, I had to have this like argument a bunch of times where it's not easy for me to say no. Like it looks like it comes off easy because I'll literally say it in about a second if some idea comes up, because I just weigh all the factors, and it's like, well, is this going to take too much time? How much effort is this going to take? Are people going to enjoy it? Is it going to be fun for the game? I weigh all of that, and then I make the decision right away, because I found out a long time ago that if you hesitate and you don't make the decision that your gut's telling you that is logically because you're trying to be nice, it's going to be detrimental in the long run. Yeah. So it comes off as really being a prick to people, and because I'm so stalwart about it, I don't change my decisions that I've made unless you have a really good argument to change them and you beat my argument back. I really like arguing. Like I think that discussion and arguments has taken a bad toll in the last decade, in this country especially, but in the world generally, where people see it as you're fighting, and it's like, no, you can sit there and have a we had that many times. Even with Molag Ball's Inferno, when we did that one, we had a lot of sit down. Like, me and Big Biscuit went back and forth a lot. Like, we compromised on a lot of things, but it was like we had a lot of really, really heavy arguments and discussions where we'd even get mad at each other, but we'd keep bringing up points, to try to, argue it back and forth, and it was never, hopefully never, I don't know if he resents and hates me, but I mean, I enjoy that kind of a discussion back and forth where a lot of people nowadays just, if you even start to question their ideas, they just view it as being mean and, unresponsive, or it's like, even if I say no to something, I'll take arguments. There's game decision designs on Breaking Wheel that were completely against what I wanted, but they made better arguments.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And they made logical arguments that I still personally disagree with, but logically and as far as the market goes, I can't disagree with.
Yeah, well, there's always these two different designs. So I mentioned these nice guy evil bosses and people, but it would be great to have an agreeable boss you can have sit downs with and have arguments with, or a guy who's maybe a prick at first, but he's ultimately agreeable and open to new ideas.
No. Disagreeable. You want disagreeable, but open to new ideas.
Yeah.
Agreeable is bad.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean by it's like the two BioWare games, for example, that just came out. Apparently, with Dragon Age Inquisition, it's obviously the better game of the two, for example. But apparently with Mass Effect Andromeda, the people who led the team were actually quite nice people who were open to the ideas of their staff and things like that. And with Dragon Age Inquisition, the lead guy, Mike Laidlaw, apparently kept saying we had problems with troublemakers, and as soon as someone stepped up and offered criticism, I fired them on the spot. But that's the But the argument is that Dragon Age Inquisition was actually a successful game at the end of the day, where Mass Effect Andromeda was just a total shit show, mainly because the devs couldn't control their team because they were just too nice. So there's that argument as well.
Yeah, there's a happy medium to that one, I think, where it's criticism is, you need criticism. But the problem is that a lot of internal criticism is biased, and you're looking at it through a very narrow prism, which is once again why we're looking at getting as many testers as we can as we produce the next game, because we're biased. You make the game, even if you're just working on small aspects of the game, your life revolves around the game, so you're always going to be looking at it through a prism. And it's generally going to be pretty biased one way or the other, whether you like it, dislike it, like a feature, dislike a feature. So it's hard to be internally critical of something that you're working on and investing a lot of time in. So I think outside testing actually helps a lot with that. I mean, I don't know what the situation was between those two games. I'm assuming Inquisition had a lot of outside, because you're right, it is by far the better game. And I'm assuming they had a lot of testing and focus groups to try things out. And I mean, a lot of these companies have histories of that too. I mean, going back a decade, they've been testing things with people and getting reactions to different things. So making an amalgamation of them all that makes it work, and sometimes it's just pure fucking luck.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, you make a Flappy Birds. Who thought it would be so successful? That was pure fucking luck. I mean, the same thing can be said of some mechanics in video games, even from AAA devs. I mean, look at Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Pile of shit. It was basically pure fucking luck, because they focus grouped the hell out of that movie, and then it comes out and it's 50-50.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, it's Guardians of the Galaxy, a 90+% enjoyed it, and that was a pure fucking luck. They didn't think it was going to be successful.
Yeah.
This is one of those Marvel ones where they didn't think it was. I mean, Dead Space. There's you another one. One of the times EA just jumped out on the rail and let a dev go to town on something. Pure fucking luck. Amazing game. Next two, not so much. They clamped down a lot on what they did and the creativity.
Yeah.
So
too often it's just these sort of stray neuron ideas that become multi-billion-dollar empires.
Yeah, and it's
Minecraft.
It's one of the things. It's one of the things you look at, and that's why I said we can test as much as we want and have hundreds and hundreds of people testing the game. Even if we get 90% of them really enjoying it, we could release it to the market and be a colossal failure. So it's kind of. It's a chase your dream kind of thing, and it's also marketing. I mean, Bethesda, CD Projekt Red, all of them generally spend more money to market the game than they spent on developing the game. I mean, what was it? It was $39 million to make Witcher 3 and $44 million in advertising.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. It's fucking crazy, because the problem is with the games, the same thing with music. It's nowadays what we're getting into. The entire world is your damn market, which means you can't specifically target people for the games. So it's a lot more expensive to just do broadband advertising than it is to actually target specific things for like what we're doing. We're targeting mobile things on Facebook and Reddit is our plan.
Yeah, I mean, it makes watching Twitch impossible because it's the same advert for the same show for like 5 weeks straight. It's like, I don't want to watch the stupid show.
Fucking Amazon does that too. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the targeting. The targeting's kind of like, it's, as we said, TV, music, and video games are now getting so global that, you know, I mean, I'm driving down LA and I'm seeing billboards for, you know, Fallout back in the day. I'm like, holy shit! Like it's that widespread that you just got billboards on the streets for fucking video games. Okay, I mean that explains the cost of it.
All right, well, I think that probably sums up. Yes. Chris, do you have any questions for Darren? Or any more questions?
No, we've actually like talked for an hour, so I think it's a good point to end things.
Yeah, I was gonna say we kind of like drove Chris out there. Just...
All right, well, do you have anything to say about your game when it's released, or any upcoming things you want?
No, it's out on mobile. The PC version will probably be another month or two before, because of all the crap going in real life, and I've got to modify the new version to go for PC. But the current PC version is just, don't buy it. It's a shit show. It's like it's like 6 gigs. It's fucking, we've got to fix that. It's going down to like 1.8 or something. And no modding support for the new version, though. It actually crunch it. We can't have modding for it at the moment. And it rips out some levels and shit that weren't fun that we got feedback on. But I mean, the mobile version's out on iOS. It'll never be out on Android because fuck Android. If anybody doesn't know, they don't have a separate GPU processor, so Android is shit at 3D games.
Yes.
That's about it. Just search Breaking Wheel iOS, you'll find it. There's like one review from my brother-in-law that says get the chickens. That's about it. I don't know. Look forward to, you know, showing everybody the next one in like 16 years when we get a demo out.
All right, cool. All right, Darren, thanks for coming on. And everyone, please look out for Breaking Wheel on the iOS store and in Steam in a month or so time. Okay, cool. Bye, everyone.